You understand, like, we don't always mention, oh, we're going to make a campfire and we're going to set out our bedrolls, we're going to eat a meal. I'm Nerdarchist Ted.
And I'm Nerdarchist Dave.
Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds.
All right, Ted, what is the D&D campfire and why should it be used?
The D&D campfire is one of those things that players frequently forget that we don't live in the moment. We don't live as these characters do. The D&D campfire allows the characters to interact and like share their stresses, their tensions, their hopes, their dreams, finding out the backstories, all the things that you've come up with as a player that can and should be shared. You're not going to info dump on people. It's not the like, oh, I've got this 4-page backstory. Let me read the whole thing to you. But something has recently happened that allows you to be like, I'm going to deliver this prompt and allow those characters to connect and better know each other and find this similar story or find the nuances of how these players and characters are going to interact and grow and move and live together. So Dave, why is player-to-player engagement so important to the game?
So the player-to-player engagement is super important because, as we're always kind of mentioning, that you don't want to just info dump on your fellow players. You want to make it a back and forth exchange, and when you're engaging from player to player, it should be a back and forth. It shouldn't be just you kind of monologuing to them. If you're each asking questions about each other's past and history and what your capabilities are, this is a great way to get that out in an organic way.
It's going to allow you to build a bond between, one or more sets of characters. And truthfully, if you're going to be out there adventuring with these fellow characters, you really have to know and trust who they are. And I feel like the more this player-to-player engagement happens, the more of this bond that's going to be built. I always love starting a new campaign, regardless of what the player-to-player reactions are at a table or interactions are at a table. Certain characters are going to, based on how they're role-played and what nuances you have, it's going to determine where the true friendships, where the relationships are going to develop. Sometimes you might find, like, all right, the player might not be, like, super tight. Like, you guys might be friends, but you're not, like, bonded. You're not best friends. But sometimes those characters are going to wind up doing that, and that's going to strengthen your friendship with, the player at the table. So I always enjoy trying to find, like, all right, I want to build a relationship with this character because in real life, I'd like to have a better relationship with this, friend at the table. So these are just fun elements to have that make the campfire that much stronger.
Well, and I would also, just the counterpoint to that is like leave your friendship outside the game just the way it is, but the characters have bonded for whatever reason and in the story. It doesn't have to have, a dual meaning.
Right.
But it could.
Right. The D&D campfire, it's a, hopefully, an easy thing to pick up on. There's always the bed down for the night, and when we play D&D, there's, we're going to take a long rest. You understand, like, we don't always mention, we're going to make a campfire and we're going to set out our bedrolls, we're going to eat a meal. So much is just kind of overlooked. And a lot of times that long rest is just kind of hand-waved. That's like, it only takes 8 hours. And we just get back into whatever the story is. But those characters, they're living in that moment. It's a scenario where, like, in real life, like, when you bed down for the evening, like, at our household, we watch a little bit of TV, we have some conversations. So, like, there's chance to really see, well, what were your thoughts on the day? What are your stressors? What are your issues? Let's talk about some of our problems. So whether you've got the happy-go-lucky bard in the party, whether you've got the charismatic, sorcerer or paladin in the party that's trying to get everybody to, talk and be friends, here's the chance to really open up and allow those characters to explore each other.
Yeah, I mean, the campfire, like you said, is a place for interaction with each of your players, getting to learn about each other. But also, like, you're going to set the watch order when you break camp and set up the fire. You might also delineate, like, who's doing what chores involved. Like you mentioned, they don't just happen. Someone's got to do it. Does the druid just use druidcraft and make everything happen in the campsite? Or does the ranger or barbarian just go about setting everything up, getting the wood for the campfire and things like that? What's the watch order? Like, is it a predetermined predetermined thing. You guys always have the same watch order. Or maybe the players, part of like their inter-party banter is fighting over who gets the preferred slots in the watch order. Maybe your group draws lots every night before they've determined the watch, and longest to shortest just gets the their pick of the watch order, right? Could be like a fun mini game inside of D&D that you play. And like Ted said, it's just a chance to sit down with the other players, do some role playing where you're not really being influenced by the adventure that's going on. Or maybe that's what you guys want to role play about. Maybe that's what you want to talk about and discuss in game. Maybe you want to come up with your plans, and you guys always do that after you start your camp and set up, and like that's like, okay, what's tomorrow's day? We lay out the plan. Maybe you have like someone who's kind of like take charge and like a strategist. That applies to everything, and like every campfire you set up, that's the next thing they're going to do while you guys are like prepping meals, or after you finish the meal, like they're drawing the X's and the O's in the sand, or whatever you do to kind of enhance your experience at the table.
Like this is an opportunity for you to get into your character. What is it that you're looking to bring to this group? Are you the fighter? And during today's adventures, like, oh, you realized that there were some tactics that were done poorly, and from a character perspective, like you could approach, like, look, you realize that you could have stepped behind this tree and gotten some cover, you could have called out and asked for a little bit of support, and I could have like backtrack, and like you could have a little bit of fun, like role-playing some of the aspects of the battle or
it could be like, what was that thing you did? I've never seen you do that before, especially after you've leveled up.
Absolutely, like learning some of the players' new abilities. Or if like you're going to level up, like at this particular long rest, like you could talk about like, oh, well, I got this idea of something I'd like to try, and bring it up as opposed to doing it in battle for the first time. You could just be like, hey, look, I'm thinking about this. What do you guys feel? So whether you're leveling up in the long rest, and allow like a character to character discussion for like different things that the player wants to really take. So that could be a fun nuance to play.
Now, the campfire also has some advantages over other settings, like, say, the tavern, for instance, right? Sure, the tavern's a great place for the players to have inter-party exchanges, but there's also a lot of distractions, like the serving people, the other patrons, the barkeep, performers. So it's really
the table that's really a mimic.
Yeah, the table is really a mimic. So it's really easy for things to pull the players apart and have them not interact with each other, but other things in the world, right? Parties and balls. Same problem, a lot going on, but in the middle of the wilderness, and in the dark forest, there's just the campfire and the light surrounding it. It almost creates this like barrier, this little pocket of civilization in the middle of nowhere, where it's just you and your companions, and that's all you really have to interact with.
The only thing that could possibly break that up was those random encounters. In the past, our campfires, we didn't really do a whole lot of character to character interaction. It's one of those things that like I learned much later in life, as my role-playing life, that character to character interaction is one of the things that is like an amazing experience, and like makes you a better role player. But like previously it was like, all right, well, our campfire was a requirement to set up of, are we getting a meal? Are we getting a rest? What is our watch order? And it's just waiting for that random encounter that we know is probably going to happen.
There's a couple other things too, right? Like a definite advantage over the tavern that Campfire has is like you want your players to focus on this one NPC. Well, in a tavern, there's all kinds of stuff going on, and maybe they'll focus on that NPC you want them to, or maybe they're gonna focus on Giggles, the throwaway goblin that you made, right? Just as a background detail. But if they're sitting around a campfire and just someone walks into their camp, boom, center of attention. Or they're traveling down the road, it's getting close to time to set camp. There's a campfire up ahead, right? There's already a group of people there or an individual there. It can you can use it as a beacon in the wilderness, but also you can use it as a spotlight that focuses on the thing that you want to be focused on narratively.
It's a really, really great point of, that isolated encounter that is potentially like a diversion or a major plot point. If they've decided to push on and all of a sudden up ahead there is a campfire already set, there's a nice opening that they could all lounge, it gets this weariness drawn in of like, well, half the work is already done, but is this a trap?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
like you got this.
And you can also like add some other things like, oh, you smell the aroma of roast pheasant or whatever the players might be interested in. And also you might like be a good chance to be like, yo, what are some scents from your homeland that would be really appealing to you? And you can like let the player add that and maybe kind of work that into the encounter as well. Because then they could be like, well, I'm like, as they're approaching, like, oh, you smell the garlic roasted pheasant that's been marinated in honey. It's very specific to this particular, halfling culture or whatever you want to do. And you give that information to the player, and then they might expound upon it or give it to the other players, which then also creates more inter-party dynamics and them talking about it in a way that like, it's just like kind of like a mundane thing, but it can be kind of like a special moment in the game.
If you like this video, as well as all the content we put out on nerdarchy.com, make sure you like, share, subscribe, even attune to that notification bell.
Quick reminder, we drop new videos here on the channel weekly, so come on back, but you can't wait till then. Check the cards up here for your next Nerdarchy video.
So until next time, stay nerdy.